the beauty about the scientific thing, I think, really helped me, because it is the same thing as the spiritual side, but it explains it in a more scientific way, that there is your mind, there's a superconscious, a subconscious, a connection to the universe inside, that you can actually connect to if you bypass your conscious state, which is like the conscious brain, which is
the intentional state. You mean the state of intention?
The kind of conceptual mind, the superficial mind, which is kind of just has 2 or 3% power apparently, but really controls the whole being. Through its kind of like all the concepts and ideas and up conditionings picked up.
The personality and the superficial thinking and the life as it's perceived through the conditioned mind and so on.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But the subconscious is like a universal kind of database that's got every bit of information, and miracles can happen from there. And a scientific study of this thing, has stated the same thing. And a lot of these guys talk a similar kind of language to the kind of, the Vedanta stuff, but it's much more of a scientific way. And I found a kind of unifying factor between the two. I found, okay, I've been looking into the spiritual stuff for so many years, and then now suddenly I found something scientific that's kind of, kind of just sounds, I don't know, something to seal the deal a little bit, so I do feel that there's a certain kind of...
So do you feel at the end of this that there are things you can control?
Yes. I believe so, yeah. Not as a... I believe there's a power inside me that's connected to, if you like, God or whatever, and that can control things. That can make a real changes. And if I connect to that, and if those two connect in the same frequency and the same, then yes, there is a sort of control. There is, I can actually...
Can you go to that place and still retain your personal desire, identity and wishes and so on? Can you come to that place?
Because what I realize is that's the thing. You see, those desires actually coming forth from the God itself, who wants to express himself through this body. So a lot of desires are those desires.
All desires?
No, but some strong ones maybe are. Well, I know they are because through the study of the Kabbalah,
even the desires that say create pain for other people.
No, not those desires. No. Creative desires. Creative desires. Desire to create something, let's say, because everything was created by thought first. Also, I realized the power of the imagination. There's one more thing I realized really strongly from this whole thing, is that the imagination is a very strong power, and everything before it manifested in the physical domain was imagined first. It's a very creative power, and some, I believe, some of the books I read, your imagination truly is. There's a guy called Neville Goddard. I don't know if you heard of him. He's always he was around in the 30s. He said that imagination is the Christ within you. Jesus is human imagination is Jesus Christ, and he kind of like puts a lot of analogies, and he really explains it, how everything in the Bible is a metaphysical explanation of.
It's a metaphor for metaphysical explanation.
Yeah, it's a metaphor. That's right. Yeah, there's no. He's saying that some of these things people didn't exist in those times. This is metaphors of things, and actually, I can't recite any of it offhand now, but it does make a lot of sense. And I did find out, but actually, and he says that if you want something, you simply imagine as if you already have it, and it'll come forth into your experience.
And the you who wants something, it's only momentary, no? The thing that it wants, it's only momentary, because even the you is not itself a permanent composition. It's a sort of change. It's like an amoeba. The you is not stable. The you who wants something, because you've wanted many things in life, and when you got them, after a while you don't want them anymore, or your desires change. So.
But what the thing is God is manifested in His body, and or the universal, or the universal power is manifested in this body in time and space, and wants to express those desires.
Well, I would say that it's not just want to express these desires. There's something, I say that the consciousness seems to create the sense of a problem in order to have the experience of transcending the problem. Sometimes it creates a desire then to then discern whether this desire is good or not. It's not that it just produces a desire and says, okay, let's have it. Sometimes it produces the sense of a desire in order to exercise another aspect of its power, which is this power to discern whether this thing that is initially desired is a thing to be had or to be let go of. You see, it has to use the power of discernment. It's not just desire something, have it, because we know that we can have desires, and then you can want them, and when you have them, they produce very poor fruits, even painful experiences.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
Because just because you get something that you want, it doesn't mean that it's the right thing. So you can.
And we have enough experience of that.
Yeah.
We have had many things that we wanted. Some came easily, some came with very hard work. But when you get them, even the thing that seemed like it's going to produce the greatest happiness, after a while doesn't produce that happiness. In fact, it doesn't produce any happiness. It's just that somehow we cease wanting it when you get it. And it's the relief from the desire, which the desire in a sense frustrates us. It's very addictive, but when you get the thing, then at least that desire has to drop, because now you have the thing. And the falling away of the desire, this is what Ramana was saying, actually, it's very beautiful. When the cessation of the energy of desire produces the feeling of relief, and we enjoy that relief as though it is the joy that is coming from the thing that we desire as well too. Because you can see that is pure imagination. I really desire to have this particular glass, for instance, okay? And say my grandmother had a glass like this. It's really, I've always wanted it, because for me, that is my strongest memory, is her drinking out of this glass, or every night she put her teeth in that glass, or whatever it is, and I really value that. Then finally I get this glass, and I'm just completely full of joy, because I'm satisfying all my imaginations and projections about it. Now I finally have the thing that really means so much to my grandmother and to me.
But you brought that forth into your experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
it developed inside me, the thought.
Right.
With my cooperation. Then the glass is brought here, and then I find that Mooji also has 6 of those glasses here. You bring this glass around with you. I've got 6 of those glasses here. We all have some orange juice in the glasses, and somebody's taken all the glasses inside the kitchen and washed them all together, and they all are identical. You don't know which one is your grandmother's glass anymore, for instance, okay? Now, the glass in itself, the grandmother's glass, doesn't know it's grandmother's glass. It doesn't have any sentiment towards your grandmother or anything. It's just a glass. And they're identical. You cannot tell any difference between that and the other 6 glasses. Okay? But to you, your mind, it makes a tremendous difference that you get the right glass. The glass doesn't mind. Mooji doesn't mind. Only your mind minds, because it's made a particular sentiment about a particular glass, which you can say it is that particular glass on one level. You can say, but that is a particular glass, and it's very important that he finds that particular glass. For what reason? To satisfy his own sentimental, attachments or something like this. So you can see how much the mind is involved in that, that it is not a logical satisfaction. I mean, the glass is there. You could say you could take anyone, but most people would say no. That wouldn't be satisfying. I need to discover exactly the one I came with. For me, that is hugely conceptual, sentimental, and that's where the value of it is. In fact, like that. Now, if one of the glass broke, I say, "Oh my God, it broke one of the glass." I say, "I hope it's not my grandmother's glass." I said, "No, it wasn't. The grandmother's glass is this one. I put it over here." Suddenly they give you meaning and context and recognition again. It may not be the same glass, but again it reinstates the importance and the uniqueness of that glass. And you take it straight and put it in your bag, and you may continue with that glass for the next 40 years of your life. thinking this is the same glass I took from my grandmother. It may or may not be. You see, this is so. Mind is a very, very unreliable field.
But which mind are we talking about? The conscious mind or the superconscious mind? Which is
Well,
God?
both. But I mean, the superconscious mind is not personal.
Okay.
Let's put it like that. The superconscious mind is not a personal mind.
But we have access to that superconscious, or the superconscious mind can be.
Well, actually, we can say that
Can be aligned.
the superconscious mind is not in service to the ego. Mostly, we are identified with the state of the ego. We don't like when we say that, but the fact is that's how we are. We have very strong preference for the sense of individuality about this particular body, about our particular upbringing and so on. That's a very unique conditioning. We value that.
But what if you go? What if you go into a creative mode where you think that I am anything I would like to be and express myself as, and I have the power?
Well, it depends on whether you can do that genuinely. You may do an exercise in that, but you're not able to retain that because it takes a while to develop in some way an authentic, transformative experience. You know, it's not that you may have a little, what you may call a glimpse. You may have, a fix or a shot or a dose, but to retain, you cannot retain. You have to really have changed at a cellular level to then say that's what I am now. You see, the change may take over time to change. It can happen very quickly also, but something must have triggered it in a very profound way. You may have to go through a crisis that tends to intensifies and what I would say not just intensifies the experience, but almost render the experience. You understand?
Yeah.
Rather than just you have a smell and the smell is gone. It means that something at an organic level within you has changed. Your whole outlook, your inner environment, the atmosphere, the climate of your thinking, everything has changed now. And so you become that thing. But you cannot just say, if I just did this exercise, will I become that? No, I don't think so. We have to say at the same time, at the root, we are that. You understand? But that may not be your experience. Our experience, what we may confirm as our experience, honestly, is going to be your daily familiar experience, the way in which your favorite idea of yourself, or how you are habituated to think about yourself. That may be what is registered in your mind as who you are. And you cannot just jump out of that, because that is a rehearsed identity that keeps growing and strengthening over time, like this.
So if you drop every single belief about who you are?
You cannot. You cannot. It has to be, I would say that it can happen through grace and through education and through exercise and through contemplation and through meditation and through the grace and guidance of a teacher who has themselves done that, can help you to reach that state much more quickly and authentically within yourself. But to just say, it's like today, I was talking with two of my, what you may call like students, let's say like this for the moment. They're in a relationship and they're struggling within their relationship on some level. And they're taking a trip together, which I've asked them to take. But they're going to be together intensely for the next 2 days in a very close contact because they're driving together in a vehicle. And at the moment, they're finding the relationship challenging. And one of them said to me today, should I just drop it? Should I just give it up? All this relationship and all of these things. And I said, no, you can't. You're not mature enough to just drop things. It takes a certain maturity, a certain strength of character to drop the things that are sticky for you. Your attachments, your fears, your insecurities. You cannot just drop them. So what I would prefer is that you continue to look at them and to confirm that you are actually looking at them, and the very fact that you're looking at them makes them phenomenal for you. so that they cannot be absolutes, they cannot be facts. They are just sort of phenomena arising in you, and thereby recognize that you who perceive the phenomena, are you also phenomenal? Because this type of questioning really is so powerful at really clarifying at a cellular level within our being the distinction between yourself and your mind. You understand? At the bottom of all of this, the mind and the self, they meet and they are one, they are the same root. But at the flowering part of our being, in the branches and the leaves, there's differences there. And you must know the distinction between the flower, the leaf, the branch,
But
the twig,
that
the fruit.
is the mind, the perception, and it's all created in the mind first, right? And then it flowers. No?
You may say that thought energies do arise from the self,
Yeah.
take shape in the mind.
Because the thought is creative. It's the only creative power.
I don't know if the thought are themselves creative. I think that it is the consciousness that is identified with thought that sort of has a creative power through its relationship with thought. I don't think thought in themselves create. A thought is not a living thing. A thought is only a kind of an appearance energetically that has the potential, the capacity to be turned into something else. But the thought doesn't turn itself into something else. Like a thought doesn't think itself. It only sort of manifests, but energetically.
There is something in that a thought can. Like this thing. This one book explains this. It's like there is something out there, right, and a formless substance that permeates the whole universe.
Yes.
And a thought at a certain level put into the substance, right, will manifest. Now, obviously, I don't know how the process of that works, but that thought has to be a certain kind of pure. I don't know. It's the way you think.
We can look already. We have sufficient evidence because all our actions, you can say everything that's surrounding us. For instance, in this room. I think you will agree, because I think you were hinting at that earlier, that everything that you see in its tangible expression at the moment
was thought of first.
It first appeared as thought or imagination.
Yeah.
And then many things appeared as thought that didn't become actualized into actual entities, or not entities but into objects.
But that's because
some intention was there.
Yeah.
An intention was there. An urge was there, you may say like this, that then brought the thought from an abstract manifestation into a concrete manifestation like that. Yeah. We have sufficient evidence like that.
So it says that if the thought is sustained and kind of
yes. If you are trying to say if the thought is strong enough, if we're single-minded enough about the thought,
definitely.
Can you not bring that thought intentionally into
physical
form?
State?
Yes, you can. But rarely is the human mind so singular in its concentrative power.
But this is apparently what all the geniuses of the world and have done to introduce certain things to the world through science.
No, many of what you may call the genius, the discoveries, were not something that they made. They sort of happened. What happened is that the genius didn't think anything genuine. Actually, what they were obsessed with a certain thing. They had that shaped and colored their abilities. It directed their abilities somehow. But in a way, almost they had to come to a place of no mind. They had to come to a place of complete emptiness, where the mind completely drops or relaxes. It loses its personal root or identity. And in that space, because previously there's a tension that's been created through intense interest, then suddenly it relaxes in a space. And then the thing that's been sought for, the thing that you're seeking, can then pop into the space more, because it's empty enough for it to manifest in its purest light and then it came, as you may call, like a spark of divine idea. We can use this type of language if you want to.
That's correct, yeah.
And then you may say, aha, so that's it. And then the rest becomes simple then, because it's just experience of totally clear mind.
Because you say that then the process actually happens automatically. If the thought is so powerful and sustained in this formless substance, then everything happens, conspires to make it appear.
It can do, not necessarily that it may come into form. It will depend upon whether the intention behind it is a personal motivation or a universal expression. You understand? If it is a person's intention.
But why can't it be personal? Because why is it not that the manifestation of God within the person?
You can say that the person is also a manifestation of God, but somehow when God manifests as a person, let's say as a person, it can imbue within that personal expression a sense of very strong egoic identity, meaning that the personal mode of consciousness is very much selfish, self-indulgent, self-centered in a psychological way, in an egoic way. Or the person, so to speak, can be more of an empty vessel through which the universal expression acts without intrusion, without personal intrusion, in which case I would call it a pure action. When the universal force expresses through the kind of personal mode, it's a little bit like moving in sludge. It's a bit more heavy, it's a bit more of a heavier movement.
Right.
And there's something so wise in that, is that when consciousness manifests as ego, its manifestations and its expressions tend to be much more clumsy and more heavily burdened, in a sense. It has to be so, because the whole expression or movement of consciousness in its totality is a movement towards harmony, not towards conflict. The person seems to be in isolation, like you would imagine a wave having its own identity and its own sense of autonomy, and believing that it can just choose to go where it will. Whereas it can't, because each movement of even a wave has the total ocean under it. At a certain point we come to see that there's no individual in this in the way that we imagine. That if you come to understand that the individual is only a notion, it's only an illusion, and in fact the individuality is the universality, in fact, acting. But once you come to that understanding, you're no more, giving value to the personal identity. It's not like a selfish reason for something to happen.